Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I see people joining from all over the globe. First of all, thank you all for your time, and we will make sure that the time is worth spent. Okay. Today we are going to talk about a tool called JASAP, which is an agile tool for SAP projects, especially made for SAP project, because we don't have any product in the market which is SAP specific. Of course, we have SAP products. From the third party, we don't have any other product which can help you to run the project in an agile way. So this tool will be a unique combination for you to run a SAP project in an agile manner. Okay. Now we are going to show how this can reduce your timeline and save 20 to 30% of the cost. That's the intention of the today's session. With that, brief introduction, let me jump into the next slide. So, before we jump into the meat of the discussion, let me quickly introduce myself. Myself, Ramki Ramakrishnan, founder of Nemsoft, and I do go global program director role and solution architect role for various projects. Nemsoft is involved in SAP project management, implementation, integration, change management, and annual maintenance, including the staff augmentation. This product is developed in collaboration with AppServe AI, which is a division of Empira. And Empira is a long-standing product development company. They have a lot of experience in product development. They do AI development too. And their popular product is case management tool. And they are value-added reseller for the Jira products, Atlassian product. In today's session, we will be running through starting with the delivery challenges of SAP project, and then we move into introducing the JSAP, and then we run a demo of end-to-end project management in JSAP, and then we will have last 10 to 15 minutes for any questions and answer, and allow any discussions. Okay. So feel free to put your questions if you have anything during the session in the chat box. So we will review the chat questions at the end of the session. So let us start with what are the delivery challenges we face in implementing the SAP project. We all know and understand SAP project is not a cakewalk. We face many challenges. Okay. So when we talk to the consultant, they will say the scope creep is one of the main reasons for us to delay the project, right? But if we talk to the business, they will say, there's a project management, there is a sprint planning, there is a release management, there's a quality of delivery, they will give a, another set of reasons. So what we did here is we listed the common challenges we face in implementing SAP projects, and then we adjusted this tool exactly to match those challenges. Okay. For effective execution, what we need is first the centralized visibility of SAP project progress. We need a tool which can help in planning, managing the timeline and releases and sprint cycle. And another important thing is, do we have a tool which will collect the business requirement in totality, whether the requirement gathering process is complete? Because many times we face the requirements are popping up towards the testing stage, not in the initial stage. So we need a very strong tool which will allow you to collect the requirement upfront. Not only collecting the requirement, this requirement needs to be added or verified with the SAP best practices. And we should be able to do a very strong fit gap analysis. Similarly, what about having a tool which will track, prioritize, and monitor the requirements and the right item. The right item means risk, actions, issues, and decisions. And we spend a lot of time in creating epics, user story, the rise of kind of thing in the development tool. If we have a tool which will automatically generate the epics, user stories, and rise of item from the given set of requirement, that would be great. Not only creating the user stories and epics, this tool will also should be able to help in creating the test management artifacts like test cases, test plan, etc., and also defect triage. Moreover, all these artifacts that we create in a project all are put in one place, and they are saved not only for the project duration, also after go live support challenges. So these are the challenges. We want to have a tool which will address all these challenges. So with this idea, we land up in creating the tool called JASAP. JASAP stands for Jira Agile for SAP. Okay. So this is one of the tool available to run the project in an agile manner, and it streamlines everything together, helping from the planning, collecting the requirement, and running the development, and testing and tying everything together. Okay. With this introduction, let me go into the overall view of the JASAP tool. When we talk about the JASAP tool, this is a centralized project management tool, right? So one of the key feature of this JASAP is a dashboard. So high visibility to the C-level executive of the company, instantly let them know what is happening, right? So this dashboard is built from the inputs databases of JASAP, and in turn the JASAP stores all these documents we use in a SAP project, like project charter, requirement, business process, design document, project plan, functional specs, technical specs, risk, actions, issues, decisions, cutover plan, training plan, security profile, release plan. So we have so many artifacts created during the project, and all those things are put in a centralized place and used for creating the wonderful dashboard to give a quick information. So with this, you don't have to write a weekly status report. You just come to the dashboard, you know where the project is. So that is one of the key feature of this project. So basically this project or this product starts from planning cycle. So the very first activity is the planning. So basically what we do here, we collect three data pieces. One is the project start date. Then we have the phase duration, how long each phase you want to plan, and then the sprint duration. With this three parameter, when it is given to the JASAP, it automatically draws the project timeline, a Gantt chart for you to immediately visualize how it works. Okay. At this point of time, let me jump into the system and show you how this particular planning function works in the JASAP. So this is a tool called JASAP, which is basically available in the Jira marketplace. So this is your initial welcome screen for the JASAP. The very first activity you do when you download this JASAP tool is click on the getting started with JASAP, which we have done already for you. So you do it only once in the beginning when you download. So this is not a very interesting thing to demo. You just click on that and say start JASAP setup. The program does everything what you need to do. So most of the time you will start with the associating a project to the JASAP tool. Here you may be running multiple projects in the organization, multiple SAP streams or multiple SAP projects, which may be parallelly running. So we allow you to add more than one project, and every time you can jump into the particular project and then see the status, see the progress and things like that. So here we have an option whether you want to create a new project or take an existing project. So for this demo purpose, let me create a new project. So let me give a project name here. I will call it as a webinar demo project. Okay. So I'm going to do some of the uh, work types generation and all those things for today's project. This is a new project we are adding. We call it as a WD 64. Okay. So enter the description. This is a demo project for webinar. Okay. So simply say create project. So when you do this, this project is put into the Jira, or the space is created for this project, so that you can put all your items, all your work types, everything under this space or under this project. Okay. Jira was calling this as a project. Now they are calling it as a space, which basically means same thing. Okay. The second step, what you do here is you define the functional area. Even though everything is all SAP project, everybody may not implement every module based on the business. What you do, some of the modules are required, some of the modules are not required for you. So you can choose what are the scope of the functional area. Also, you can play it differently for a brownfield implementation or a greenfield implementation. So here as a default, we have selected some of the core modules like supply chain, sales, and manufacturing, finance, source to pay, etc. So these are created as the standard or basic module of SAP implementation. But if you have more modules, you are welcome to uh, tick it so that it will get included in your project. Okay. So once you did the phase, the next activity you do is go to the project timeline. In project timeline, you say, hey, when I want to start the project, I say I want to start next week. So whenever I give the date, it automatically aligns to the Monday. Here I will define the sprint duration. For preparation, I want to have 1 week sprint, and I want to do 2 weeks of preparation activity. So that means 2 sprints are in the preparation phase. And I go into the discovery. In the discovery, I want to run 2 week sprint of, let us say, 6 weeks. Okay. So that is basically running the exploration or discovery phase, running the workshop and things like that. And the realization, I want to have a 3 week sprint for, let us say, 18 weeks. Then test and deploy, I want to have 2 week sprint for, let us say, 8 weeks, 2 months. And then the run, I want to have 1 week sprint for, let us say, 4 weeks. That's a support activity. So like this, you can give a initial plan. How are we going to do that? This plan can be changed, but this is the baseline plan, so that you put it here and then you click on the save. So this is a very quick way. You can change the plan as you go along, but initially it allows you to create the sprints, create the timeline, everything required to start the project. So this is what normally we do in when we sign the SOW or sign the contract with the consulting companies. We decide what should be our high level timeline. How are we going to do this? That's how it works. So once it is created, we click on the view your project timeline. So it has created the dashboard. Here you will see the epics. These are the 4 epics. Each phase is created as an epic. So first epic is a preparation phase. It has added some stories for you. Mostly these are the stories which is commonly required under the preparation phase, but you are free to add more stories under the epic manually if you need it. So we are trying to give you the minimum required stories for a preparation. And then we get into the discovery. There also we have a minimum story required for the discovery phase. Then we have the test and deploy. what are the activities in a UAT, SIT, unit test, and preparation, etc. are added as a stories. Then we have a go live and support phase, data load and cutover, and the defect management. So this is the kind of high level project plan is done for you. And this project plan, if you see, you have the sprints are created. Each sprints are created with the length what you defined based on which phase of the project is. So first you see 1 week sprint, then you see 2 week sprint, then you see a 3 week sprint, and everything put together. And you can see the graph in the quarters, or you can see it in months, or you can see it in weeks, etc., which are the standard feature of Jira. Okay, so this is how we quickly done this. But if you notice, we have not created any epic or story for the realization phase, because the realization phase is not yet started. Okay, so this is what the planning phase we do. As a last activity in the planning phase, we add the members, we identify the resource during the prepare phase. So we add everybody here. So I'm adding my name. So I add that, then I can define the role. So allows you to define the role: technical consultant, PMO, business lead, OTC, things like that. So you can create your own roles in addition to what we have. Once you do that, assign this and you add that, that will get added to the system. Okay. So let me go back to the PowerPoint here, and what is the next step here. So once we set up the initial, we did the planning, we did all the basic epics and stories required for the 4 phases of the project. Then we get into the requirement gathering. This is one of the workshop activity during the explore or discover phase. So what we do here is we collect the requirement as abilities. If you see, everything is an ability of the system, whether ability to create sales order, ability to create purchase order, ability to create cash on delivery orders, ability to create balance sheet, ability to create trial balance, things like that. So the requirements are defined as abilities of the project, what we need to do. Then the business defines the business impact. What is the impact of this requirement, whether it is high impact, low impact, so that we can decide which requirement needs to be given first preference and things like that. Then the probability. The probability is how frequently it occurs. So the business impact and the probability decides the priority. So the priority in why we do this is the priority is not a subjective item, it is basically objective. So if you leave it to the business, they will call everything is a high priority. Now we are saying, hey, tell me what is the business impact, what is the probability. Then we calculate the priority so that we can assign correct priority required. And anything falls in the dark red or the number 10, 9, it's called as a highest. Without that, the business will be stopped. We need to deliver this requirement. And similarly, anything in the quarter of 8 and 7 is a high must have. Whereas the yellow, we define that as a workaround is possible. That means you can do without it, but ideally we should have it. Then we have a low, basically the improvements, something can be improved. Then we have a nice to have, basically, aesthetic things, nice to have, a nice icon, things like that. So without that, this business doesn't stop, but it is not giving a complete picture of this. So this is how the requirements are collected in the JASAP. So let us go through the JASAP for collecting the requirements. So I go here and I click on gather requirements and click on the add requirements. So it automatically gives the project. I'm in the webinar demo project. It gives us a requirement. It gives ability. So I simply say ability to create sales order with batch number. So basically, we want to allocate the batch number in the sales order. So I can add more explanation to this in the description. For the time being, I'm just copying the short description as the description. Here the impact, hey, this is a very major impact. Without this, my business cannot run, and it happens very often. So it becomes a high priority here. So automatically the priority is assigned, and then I say to do, status is to do, and then assign to owner, I say create. So this creates the requirement. For the demo purpose, let me create one more requirement. Again, I come here. I say I created a sales order. Now I will say print the sales order. So the description, I will copy the same. And then the impact is moderate. And I will leave it as moderate. And then the possible is likely. So again, it has become high. I say create. So what we have done here is we have added the requirement as we discussed through the workshop. As we find, hey, what are the requirements coming up? Somebody sits here and puts everything into the Jira directly or the JASAP directly. And we can always go to the dashboard, and there is a requirement dashboard where you can see the requirements that you have entered. Right now we have entered 2 requirements and they are visible here. Okay, so once we do this, the next step is creating the fit gap analysis. How are we analyzing? So we go through the each and every requirement and define them, whether it is a fit or a gap. If it is a fit, that means you need to do some configuration, which could be a standard configuration. And if it is a gap, then we have to identify what kind of gap it is, whether it is a workflow gap or a report gap or interface gap or a conversion gap or enhancement gap or form. So everybody knows, SAP knows this term rise up. So we identify each gap, where it belongs to. Then we get into the realization phase after completing the business process design document. Okay, so let us do this fit gap analysis for the 2 requirements that we have entered. I go here and I go into the fit gap analysis. So I have these 2 requirements listed. So let me click on the first one, that is 20. So it is the ability to create sales order with batch number. This is not a gap, this is a fit. So I put it as a fit. So automatically the rise of box gets filled with configuration. Then I go into it belongs to the lead to cash functional area, and it belongs to the order contract management business area. And then the best practice code is 1BS. If you are familiar with SAP best practice code, you can assign it to the requirement. And this particular requirement belongs to a transaction code, which is basically, sales order demand fulfillment. And who does this is a sales manager. So in this place, we are assigning the business best practice code. We are assigning the transaction code. Sometime you may not have a best practice code available for you. For example, you are integrating with e-commerce, integrating with C4C, or integrating with a third-party system. So you may not have a best practice code already existing in SAP. In such cases, you can always click on this plus and you can add your best practice code, which is a custom developed one. Similarly, you can add your transaction code by clicking on this, transaction code, and you can add your role, because these are the standard role given by the SAP. But if you feel you want to have a different type of role doing this transaction or doing this particular requirement, then you can assign that role. Okay. So once you do this, you click on the update. So that means this particular requirement we have analyzed as a fit. Okay. So it updates and puts you back into the the drop down list. Okay, so if you see, it is already assigned fit. That is done. Now let us take the second one. The second one is printing the sales order. So here it is not a fit because it's a printing. So we need some form updates kind of thing. So I assign this as a form. and then I say it belongs to the same functional area, and then it belongs to the order of contract management, and it belongs to the one BS, and we have demand fulfillment, and it is done by the sales manager. Okay, and then I update. So this is how we do the fit gap analysis for every requirement, and once everything is identified as the fit or a gap. Okay, so let us go to the next slide here. So once we do this, this is a long exercise, might take 4 to 8 weeks. As we collect the requirement, we collect it and put it. Now what we need to do is, now we have to convert all these items into a workable work types in Jira, so that we can start monitoring. Hey, this is a user story, this is a rise of item to be completed, things like that. So that way, we need to write user story, which normally in many projects you guys must have done manually, creating user stories and rise of items and things like that. Now you don't have to do that. This particular JASAP will automatically go through the requirement and create the user stories and the rise of item for you. Let us have a look at it, how it does. So I simply go here and click on generate the epics and stories. So you have two stories here. So I select both of them, and then it needs to be either a fit or a gap. If it is not in the stage of fit or a gap, it will not pick up to create the user story, because only analyzed requirement are converted into user stories here. So I click on generate JASAP or types. So it automatically starts creating the epics, creating the user stories, creating the rise of items, so that this can be distributed to the people for doing this. When we go into the dashboard, you see I have one epic, I have user story, I have rise of, two rise stories and two rise of. Okay. Now let us look at the timeline here. And if I see here, you see the epic got added. Initially we had 4 epics. Now it is added with the 5th epic. I can move it to the middle so that it comes in a sequence. So under this epic, we have 2 stories. One is ability to create sales order with batch number. Another is ability to print sales order with a custom form. And I can go and click on this. And this story is attached to the requirement, and it attached to the rise of. The rise of here is the configuration type. You have to do some standard configuration. This is a fit, so that you don't have to do any development rise of item. Similarly, we go into the next user story, that is a printing one, and look at this. So this one also automatically created as a story. If you see that, it uses a role as a sales manager. I want to maintain sales order so that this process step is implemented, so that the sales order is implemented. So the story is the same story, and it is getting added with the one of the JAS requirement, so that we can track where from it came, and it is connected to the form. You have a development item rise of under the form. So you can go into this and assign to the developer and start giving the date, etc., so that we can see how long it takes and we can do this. Now we will go back to the timeline here. So if you go to the backlog, you will see all these stories are sitting in the backlog. So I have, right now from the 2 requirements, I have, two, these are the stories, I have it here. Now I can assign them to the sprint. I can move, this belongs to sprint 3, this belongs to sprint 4, how I am going to deliver. So it helps in the sprint planning to, depending on my sprint capacity, I move different stories and different development item to the right bucket, so that I can plan the sprint very well. Okay, so this is the activity we do when we do this analysis of this thing. Okay, the next step is here is adding a right item. In the project, we always have risks, issues, decisions, action. This happens right from the explore to the realization, maybe beyond realization. Most of the action items or right items are coming in the explore or realization phase. So we have the screen to allow you to add that. So we go here, manage right items, and we click on the right items. Then I add a risk. So my first risk, let us say, my logbox setup is delayed. I'm just giving an example. It's delayed. So that is a risk. So, we need to assign to someone who will mitigate that. For the test purpose, I will assign to Mega, and then it belongs to the R2R area, and the impact is high, major, and priority is likely, and then it's high to do, and then I say create. So like that, I can create risk action items or issues or decision, so that this is also available as a part of my JASAP tool. Okay. Now I go to the dashboard and look at my dashboard. I see one risk, just know what I entered, and I click on this. It shows what is the status. It's to do status, and it is assigned to so and so. You can click on this and further see the full detail. You can attach the documents and everything. Okay. So similarly, let me show one more thing here. When we are in the RISEF, we click on the RISEF, we see RISEF, it automatically assigns the format for creating a functional spec and technical spec. So you have a default format attached. Hey, this is a form. When you develop this form, these are the input you need to give. This is the specification for the form. So you have this template also available, so that you can fill this and give it to the developer so that he can work on it. Similarly, every RISE-OF item has its specific format. What are the data you need to provide? In some of the project, people enter that into the detailed description instead of attaching a document, but you can attach the document or enter it here. And if you are using a Confluence, this can be stored in the Confluence also, so that all are available in one place. Right now, we are giving it as an attachment, but this can be converted as you think what is more appropriate. Okay, so this is where we complete our right items. Let me go to the next item here. During the process of collecting requirements and okay, here we have a testing strategy. Now we have done all the development. My realization phase is got over. Now I am getting into the testing phase, test and deploy. So another painful activity is creating the test cases and test plan. So how the JSAP can help you automatically generate the test cases. Okay, so I go here. Let me close this and then test center. So the first button is generate test cases. So for generating the test cases, you should have the completed user story. So the filter is say that, hey, give me only the user story which are done. So we are going to change it, because you can pick up the stories even though they are not complete and be ready upfront with the test steps and things like that. So you have an option of selecting the stories which are in progress, or to do state, and go ahead and create the test cases for the same. So I have selected the two stories which we have created. Now I select them. Hey, these are the stories I want to convert into test cases. I say generate test cases. So this automatically creates the test cases for me. And the unit test cases are created for the each RISE-OF item. And the test cases are generated for the stories. So this is how it works. So it creates two test cases and two unit test cases. So once you do that, you can go to the dashboard. And we have a separate dashboard called Test Center. And you show me all the test cases. So you will see all the 4 test cases which are generated, right? Now, I want to create the test plan. I go here and say, hey, I want to create the test plan. So my test plan is first is I'm creating a test plan type, which is a unit test plan. So I define that unit test plan. I say for conducting unit tests, and then we go into it's a unit test case and the environment in a development environment, and this is the first cycle. So I can create multiple cycles for the test plan. And if you don't have your drop down here, or you want to give a different type of test, we are given all the standard, like system integration, user acceptance, end-to-end regression, data load testing, performance testing, things like that. But you can add something more if you feel something is required. Similarly, we have test cycles. You can keep adding more test cycles, and you have the development environment or a QA environment or data load environment, things like that. But you may have more environment to test it. You can put it there. Okay. So this is the creation of the test plan. So you create the test plan. Once you create the test plan, this is the header kind of thing. Now you assign for the unit test, what are the test cases I want to assign. I pick up I want to do this 31, I want to do this 29, both test cases for this particular test plan, and I assign them. So it automatically gets added to the my test plan. So I go into the dashboard and I look at the test center. I say, show me what are the test cases for this test plan. It will show this too. Now I want to rearrange. I want to do this printing sales order first or creating of sales order second. I can move it up or down based on the, how I want to do that. And I can change the order and then say save. That way you have everything put in a particular order of execution in the test plan. Okay. So now the test cases are created and I click on the test cases. It gives you the format for adding the test steps. So you go and open this, you fill this particular document with what are the step, action, data, expected results, and things like that. So you can complete this so that you have a test steps for each test cases and give it to the business user. They can test it out. Also, again, always you have a relation, it comes from which rise of item, things like that, so that the backtracking to the requirement is always possible here. Okay. So once we do this, now we are doing the testing. Now we find some bugs, obviously when we are testing. So we have one more option here, cloning. If you want to copy the test plan to another test plan, you can use this. So you can create, clone the test plan, select the test plan this and say, hey, you copy this as a unit test, but I want to do it in a different cycle, in a different environment. And I say clone test plan. It copies everything from the first test plan, including all the test cases, to the second one, so that it becomes easy to repeat the test. Especially when you do the regression, you will have more and more tests created with the same set, which is easily possible. Then the last item we have is the creating a defect. I go into the create defect. So when you go into the create defect, the defects are created and they are assigned with the severity. That is very important, because whether it's a business will be stopped, critical, or it's delayed, it's a P2, or workaround exists, P3, you can manage, or P4, nice to have. So each and every defect also classified as P1, P2, P3, and the SLA is defined, how long it takes for P1, P2. So we say P1 normally within 8 hours, and we have P2 within 24 hours and things like that. So then you define the defect type, attach the screenshot, supporting document, assign to the resource, and put the due date, things like that. Let us see how we do this in the system. So I go into the create defect. So the project automatically populates, whether it's a test or production, because the defect module is used not only for the test, it's also used for later support activity. So we have it for production also. So we have it for testing, and then we say, unit test plan, and the test case is so and so. Automatically it populates. Summary is so we give a, the format of the sales order needs to be updated. That's not, properly coming out. Okay. So we assign to the test case, and we assign to the person. This case again, mega, it belongs to the lead to thing, and all those things automatically comes. This test was done in the head office or a factory. You can give a location so that the people will know. Then this is, let us say, business is delayed, and the defect type is technical development. And I say create defect. So then we go into the dashboard. So the defects can be analyzed here. Under the defect, you see one defect we have created, and we have, the listed, and we can click on this, and we can put the date and all those further information, attachments and things like that, so that the defect is completely, available to the developer. Okay. So this is the, process. You are starting from requirement till we go live, and after go live also. And let me change the project to show you some of the features of the, the dashboards, because here we have more data. So you can see some of the colorful items. So if you go to the another project, you have a requirement analysis by functional area. You get a, donut, and you can have a graph model for the functional area. And if you go to the development, you will see, what is the progress of the development. We have, for each area, how many stories are completed, how many are in progress, how many write-ups are completed, so that you know the quick view of where are we, what are the top 5 open risks, what are the top 5 actions, and what is the rise-up by person priority, ride item by person priority, and all those things are given in a, dashboard format. And we have seen the test center, where you can see, what is the progress of testing. It's a 50% complete. This part, first one is done, second one is the to-do state, so that each test plan, where are we, and the defects, how many defects are by functional area, by priority, and severity, and aging analysis, how many are created each day and how many are closed each day, and by SLA, and then by functional area numbers. All those dashboard will help you to see quickly, what is the status of the project. Okay. So with this, I also given some of the screenshots in the PowerPoint, so that you can see what are the different test center and dashboards are available. So with this, we have come to the end of our webinar. So please feel free to install the app from the Atlassian Marketplace. And you have 30 days free trial, and you can always contact us for any questions. Also, we support S/4HANA implementation with the trained PMO resources. So if any of you require, the project manager to support you, we will be glad to support you with the trained PMO resources for helping you to run the project.